Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Ask the Unfaithful. My name is Sam. Thank you so much for joining both myself today and my great buddy James. James, how are we doing today?
Doing very well, thank you, Sam. It's almost the end of the day, which always makes it a little better. I know it's 5 o'clock somewhere, but it actually is 5 o'clock here.
Well, good for you. It's not 5 here in Austin, Texas, but it's a gorgeous day. So I'm very happy. So today we're talking about something, as they say in the marketing world, super sticky. I think this topic will resonate with so many betrayed, but also unfaithful, because it is a necessary conversation. It's the impact of people pleasing on the betrayed partner. Let me read you an introduction here. Have you ever felt like your partner prioritizes everyone else over you? Do you find yourself feeling resentful, disconnected, or even betrayed by their constant need to please others? Today, we're going to dive into how people pleasing in relationships isn't just an unhealthy habit, it can actually feel like emotional betrayal. We'll explore how this pattern damages intimacy and trust, but also how to break free from the cycle. So, James, as I kick it to you, why does this topic matter so much when you're trying to heal from infidelity or addiction?
It's because people pleasing may seem like kindness, but when one of us unfaithful consistently prioritizes other people outside of our primary relationship with our betrayed partner, it can cause really deep emotional wounds, resentment, and increase or exacerbate that betrayal wound or that sense of being betrayed on the part of the betrayed partner. And as far as the betrayed partner goes, they often feel abandoned, overlooked, undervalued, which can lead to conflict and emotional disconnection, which is the last thing a recovering couple needs, right? So
Right, right.
when a couple can recognize the pattern, they can actually go, oh, okay, we can take some steps to fix this and actually rebuild trust and create a healthier and more balanced connection.
Because it really does affect both partners. Today, we're talking about how it affects the betrayed partner. And really, if you don't understand it and if you don't do work around it, it can lead to a ton of resentment, neglect, and as you said so very well, even more loss of trust. And for those that are dealing with betrayal trauma, they're trying to heal. And so people pleasing just continues to eradicate trust. And today we'll talk about how to stop the cycle and maybe even bring some balance to the relationship. So, why don't you give us a definition and a good understanding of the impact people pleasing has on the betrayed?
Okay, so people pleasing really in any relationship, but just remember how much more intense that is in this situation. But it's the tendency to prioritize other people's needs over our own and over our betrayed partners, often driven by this fear of rejection or a need for validation. In relationships, that can mean constantly putting other family, friends, or coworkers first, leaving our betrayed feeling like an afterthought. That takes me to this really specific issue of why it feels like yet another betrayal to the betrayed partner. When the unfaithful consistently prioritizes others, the betrayed feels neglected and unimportant, basically like their needs don't matter, which replicates a lot of what's been happening so far. They also feel emotionally abandoned. They can end up then being resentful and distrustful, questioning their partner's, their unfaithful's commitment. There's this very definite emotional betrayal in this because it's insidious. As this goes on, the betrayed partner can feel like their trust is broken. So, this is very much along that emotional betrayal side of things. When the unfaithful invests emotionally in other people, it creates distance with their betrayed, leading to even deeper hurt and pain.
It really does. I can hear many betrayed, both male and female, who would sh- just absolutely resonate with everything that you're saying. I had a client the other day. She said, this undermines everything. It just feels like you're just saying the right thing. There's no priority on me. I should be. And she's like shouting, I should be the most important person in your life right now. I shouldn't even have to be telling you this. This is a blind spot for us unfaithful. We don't know why we got this way, but we got this way. If we're being honest with ourselves, that is, we can say, I don't know why I got this way, but I got this way. So why does people pleasing happen?
Fear of rejection or fear of conflict. So conflict avoidance,
Yeah,
basically avoiding to set any kind of boundary or avoiding saying no, just to keep the peace or to keep people happy with us, not to rock the boat.
right.
It seems really innocuous and almost neutral, but it's not. It has a lot of effects. Where else could it come from? Childhood conditioning, growing up in environments where love was conditional, and it was conditional on keeping other people happy, keeping everything balanced. Middle kids, especially, are the balancers of the birth order. And so we can end up just trying to, okay, I'm going to, oh, that's out of balance. I'm going to steady the boat here, trying to keep it on an even keel. Can also come from low self esteem. What we do to combat low self esteem very often is to seek external validation rather than internally resourcing that because we don't really know how, because nobody ever taught
Right.
us.
That's exactly right. Absolutely. So spot on.
Then there's the fear of loss. So you'll see this a lot. The fear of loneliness or conflict makes us cling to relationships that aren't healthy rather than focus on the admittedly hard work of recreating this primary relationship that we're in a healthy way. There's a huge part to this that the unfaithful are probably not going to like hearing. And that is that when we're people pleasing, we're actually creating the illusion of control.
Mm,
Because very often what's happened is that we don't feel like we have control over our own lives. So what we try to do is control things externally so that we don't feel that less than or that things are out of control. So we focus too much on controlling other people's actions and emotions, keeping them happy with us. If we don't state what we need, then maybe they're not going to retaliate or come back on us in some way or think badly of us. What this is really based in is this fantasy of change. As people pleasers, we often hold on to the hope that by controlling or influencing other people, they'll change their behavior and meet our needs. If if we believe that we're making other people happy, then we can control how we're perceived and actually maintain those relationships because everybody's going to be at least thinking we're a good guy, or truthfully, if we really looked at it, we're the pushover.
right.
So people are probably going, what do you mean I'm trying to control stuff? Okay, let
Hmm.
me give you some examples. Over apologizing, over committing, enabling bad behavior on the part of somebody else. By bad behavior, I mean behavior that impacts other people, including myself, negatively. Pretending that we're okay when we're not. Those are some examples of people pleasing, and all of those are designed to control the reactions that we're getting.
And when you take a deep dive into what people pleasing does, you've taught me something that is always good to help ask clients, which is what's the payoff for that? There is a cost to this people pleasing, and we don't always think through it. So, what are some of the hidden costs of people pleasing in relationships, especially ones trying to heal from infidelity and addiction?
Today, we're going to talk about the impacts or costs for the couple briefly and for the betrayed. For the couple, it's going to be a diminished intimacy and connection, which isn't that the opposite of what we're trying to do?
Absolutely.
When one partner, the people pleasing partner, the unfaithful, prioritizes external validation and pleasing others, the relationship is going to suffer from a lack of intimacy and connection as that focus on the relationship is diverted away from it. Obviously, that's at the least what is going to suffer. There's going to be conflict and strained communication, and that's going to increase the more this happens. So the constant prioritization of other people can lead to conflict within the relationship. And of course, it's going to then create a gap that strains that ability to communicate with each other on a very human, healthy level.
You're so right. And when we strain what is already strained, it is hard to gain any momentum. And so talk about the cost of it for the betrayed. And this is such a brilliant moment for the unfaithful to really listen closely and take notes on how this people pleasing really affects them.
I think you're right. It's going to really be impactful to hear this because often we can't see it as unfaithful. We can't see that. Or we're almost defensive of the people pleasing. Well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with keeping these people happy with me? And in our next episode, we're going to talk about the serious consequences on the
Right.
faithful. Here we're talking about the serious impact on the betrayed because it really helps us as unfaithful to see how this is affecting things because we may just be doing it and just getting these results that are
Totally.
awful. And
Absolutely.
we're like,
And
why is that happening?
right. And the last thing that we would do would be to shame anybody for being a people pleaser because we both have struggled with it in our own life. We're kind of being really surgical today with the scalpel and going, "Hey, you might be a people pleaser. It might be something to consider." So you unfaithful as we go down this list and James just lines it up, it would be great for you to ask your partner if he or she is speaking to you depending on your situation to go, "Hey, do you see these things in my life? Because I don't want any blind spots as we're trying to save this relationship. I don't want to get in the way any more than I already have." So, talk about how the costs are for the betrayed.
When we as unfaithful prioritize pleasing others outside of this primary relationship, the betrayed partner who doesn't people please can experience significant emotional and relational harm. And that can include resentment, distrust, loss of intimacy, all as their needs and boundaries are consistently disregarded. So the first one would be this loss of trust. And I know we hammer on this a lot, but why do we hammer on it? Because guess what? That's the core issue in
Yeah.
betrayal. So loss of trust when we're consistently putting other people's needs and wants over our betrayed partner's needs and wants, it erodes trust and creates a sense of insecurity in the betrayed partner. And remember, connection is safety. So when we are disconnecting by prioritizing somebody else over our betrayed, who should be our priority, that should be our prime
Number
directive,
one.
right?
Right.
Number one, it's going to create that lack of safety. And lack of safety over time is a loss of security or an insecurity, if you will,
Hmm.
in a betrayed partner. So that loss of intimacy and connection is so huge in that loss of feeling secure. And so that time and attention spent pleasing others causes the relationship to suffer from emotional and physical distance, even like not being at home because you're doing things for your boss or for somebody else. Oh, yeah, I can help you move and that sort of thing without consideration for, hey, during this time, I could actually be at home reconnecting with my partner, which may be
Yeah.
much more difficult than helping somebody load up a truck and move. Then there's going to come the resentment and comparison. So, what I'm talking about here is actually the betrayed partner getting resentments, resenting the unfaithful partner, the people pleasing partner, for not being focused on them. And then the comparison piece, that constant prioritization of other people leads to that resentment of not just necessarily the people pleasing partner, but also the people that they're trying to please. So that can
Right.
actually disrupt a betrayed partner's view of your boss, your friends, and so on, because then it says, well, He or she's giving all their time to these people, and what do they have over me? And that's the comparison part, because that says somebody else is more important than me. So that's going to exacerbate what's already happening for a betrayed, which is what I call a traumatic comparison. Why am I not good enough?
Yeah.
What do they have that's better than me? So now that's expanding out of, say, an affair partner into everybody else in the unfaithful. And so it
Hmm.
really feels like everybody. We're not talking about an affair partner. That's bad enough. Now we're talking
Right.
about everybody surrounding the unfaithful, because the people pleasing part of them is prioritizing all of them over the one person that needs the priority badly. And so the betrayed, why wouldn't they compare themselves to the others?
Yeah, because the betrayed has already felt neglected. They came into this traumatic situation with neglect. Now there's even more neglect of needs that they need at the most vulnerable time of maybe their life, but certainly the recovery period.
Yeah, no, there's an interesting part here because it's something the unfaithful is not going to see. They may go, well, I had to work, or it was really important to help this friend because, we're going to have to move in a year. And there's always a reason. But the real reason is keeping those people happy with us. The other problem with it that I was just going to bring up is that not just your time and your energy is going to these outside people, but also your caring. When you give all those other people the caring, how's that going to feel to the betrayed partner? Well, I'm not getting that because you're not
Yeah.
here. So you don't, where's my care and concern? It increases that gap. That is not what we're trying to do as recovering unfaithfuls. We're trying to mend those things. That brings me to how the people pleaser is really neglecting the betrayed's needs. They can feel unimportant as their needs are consistently overlooked in favor of pleasing others. Remember that emotional betrayal piece I brought up? That act of prioritizing other people over our partner absolutely can feel like a betrayal, which will lead to feelings of disappointment, of hurt, and of anger. I hear unfaithfuls all the time. Why is he or she so mad at me? All the time they're mad. People pleasing is sort of a subtle way that we don't necessarily see the result of it. But of course, it's going to result in this anger that, guess what? It's going to come at us. And we're going to be like, again, it's going to add to that judgment of why is she or he so angry? It can also lead to a greater potential for isolation. At this point, a betrayed partner may feel that much more alone because their partner's focus is elsewhere all the
Right.
time, or very consistently elsewhere, very inconsistently with the betrayed partner. So isolated and alone. Again, this recovery piece has to be relational. If it's just about, well, I'm doing my behavioral work over here, if we're not making the effort to be relational, to put the relationship and our partner first, then it's going to continue to feel like we're off somewhere else doing something with our time and our energy that isn't focused where it needs to be focused, which leads, sorry, I kind of just keep going with the which leads to, which, but it leads
Absolutely.
to a partner feeling unvalued and disrespected, frankly. And a betrayed partner, if they're feeling undervalued, it's really as though they always come last. It's not second, it's not third, it's last. If it's not first, it's last, because that's how it feels. And the disrespected part, because their needs aren't recognized and thus aren't prioritized. I think there's a really important piece in there for unfaithfuls. What are your betrayed partner's needs so that you can have them in the forefront of your mind and prioritize those? The number one need is to rebuild that trust, the number one need. And what goes with that is that feeling of safety. And what goes with that is you got to be around and they have to
Yeah.
feel prioritized. Otherwise, in addition to the unvalued or undervalued and disrespected, there's also unheard and unsupported.
And I think if a betrayed has to fight for your attention now, Every betrayed says, look, we're in the very early stages, or maybe we're in the early workings of recovery work because they, for a year or so, they just kind of put it behind them or tried to suck it up or whatever. But the betrayed says, if I'm having to clamor for your attention and priority now, what's the rest of our marriage or relationship going to look like, right?
It's exhausting, man. I mean,
Well, it's
truly,
scary as heck for the
yeah,
betrayed to go, what am I signing up for? Right?
right. Scary. And when's it going to end? That constant, when's it going to end? There's no answer to that in this sort of way of it being at this moment. And so it could go on, for all they know, forever.
And it continues to fan the flames of trust issues and emotional betrayal. Am I right?
Yes, that pattern where we put others first is going to create deep feelings of lack of safety and security in a betrayed partner over time. It's going to erode trust. It's going to erode emotional safety. And the absolute foundation of the relationship is going to be undermined and eroded, which is going to do what? This cycle of people pleasing resulting in emotional harm can create a pattern of unhappiness and instability that then gets continued and deepened more like a spiral than a circle over time, because it's going to take focused work for the unfaithful to stop doing this, because you have to recognize what's so subtle. And honestly, the more a betrayed partner feels neglected, the more conflict and disconnection that's going to arise in the relationship.
And the more that I think, and you betrayeds, by all means, we'd love to hear from you that are listening and watching. You can leave a comment and tell me if I'm wrong or right. But the more that the betrayed feels neglected, unseen, unprioritized, the more they almost feel like they have to do something drastic to wake the unfaithful up. And unfortunately, that something drastic is a separation or a divorce or threats that they're going to do that because they're trying to wake the unfaithful up with bright lights, sirens. Dude, dudette, look, you're about to lose me because you cannot, and I want to say it graciously, because you can't really man or woman up and really begin to prioritize who should be the number one priority. And so they start to feel, I think, in many ways, and you alluded to this, hopeless. And when the betrayed feels hopeless, we're heading in a really scary direction. Would you agree?
Yeah. I always say that trust plus hope equals faith.
Mm.
So if I lose faith in the process and progress of this, then I'm losing hope. If I'm not building trust or rebuilding trust, and we don't have faith that this is move in the process that says to me, I need to do these things, or my partner doesn't have faith that I'm doing those things, then what do we lose? Hope. What does our
Yeah.
betrayed partner lose? Hope. And our betrayed partner is going to lose that before we do if we're not recognizing the things that we're doing that are not relationally oriented. So, yes, I agree with you.
For you betrayed, we don't do this all the time, but on this particular topic, we would love for you to leave a comment. Leave your thoughts on how people pleasing has affected you. Maybe we've missed something and we miss stuff all the time. We would have to make these podcasts be hours to cover every single thing. And my man James, who's a hero of mine, if you all knew how much he sweats just wanting to give you all the information, but Betrayed, we would love for you to leave a comment on how people pleasing has affected you, your recovery, what it's done for how you even see your partner, because that's vital, right, James?
Oh, it is. One thing that I love is that people who watch this are creating a community for themselves in the comments. So they're actually leaving comments about other people's comments and being supportive. And I love that because, and especially this ask of yours, how else has people pleasing impacted you? Because then we're going to get some specifics and somebody else may identify with that. Oh, wow. My partner does that too. And that creates that community that feels so much more uplifting that people are not alone.
And as we say goodbye today, on behalf of James and I, and literally hundreds and thousands of healed, unfaithful, and betrayed, you are not alone, but it sure as hell feels like it. And we hope that these podcasts, my own podcast, James and Sharon's website, you name it, we do so much in many ways to help you not feel alone and not feel like you're just out there on an island. So if we can help, please, by all means, reach out to us at asktheunfaithful@gmail.com. If you're going to leave a comment, remember this: be kind, be compassionate, and be direct. Because comments that are inflammatory or aggressive or shaming of unfaithful or betrayed, we just won't post that. There's no reason. This is a safe community, and we want there to be kindness because, look, we've all got enough shame and hurt and pain. We don't need any more, and we certainly don't need any more triggers. So, wink, wink, be kind, be compassionate, and be direct. There's a character limit. But on behalf of James and Sharon and myself, we see you. This is hard as hell. Keep going one day at a time. We'll see you next time on Ask the Unfaithful.